Well, like the title indicates, man's search of meaning. Man in search of meaning. And actually, I wrote a book called Toward a Meaning for Life, so I have a special affinity to that. It's the idea that, I'll just use my own example. You're a ship at sea. And if you're lost at sea, you have no way to figure out how to navigate. And then a storm strikes, and you're lost altogether. And you could even capsize, you can drown. Meaning and purpose is the navigation of our lives. It transcends our joys and our pains. And that's why a person of meaning, who has meaning in life, is not necessarily going to suffer less, but the suffering will be more bearable. The suffering will be more bearable because they know there's deeper purpose and something will come of it. He talks about the Holocaust, even though he developed these ideas before the Holocaust, but it was all confirmed because he said, I saw people suffering in the worst possible way. And the same suffering, everyone, and yet there were some that had more resilience. It was those that had deeper philosophy, that there's a deeper purpose to life. And they didn't develop that necessarily during their suffering. They had it beforehand. They just in some way had an additional resource to navigate because that deeper meaning allowed them to hold on to that even when everything seemed lost. An element of hope, of optimism. But if you have no destination, if you have no direction, then when the storm comes, what's the difference between a good swimmer and a bad swimmer? You see it during a storm. A bad swimmer is going to fight the tide and won't know how to navigate and will ultimately get exhausted and simply lose strength. A good swimmer won't fight the tide, will just flow with the flow, go with the flow, swim along until the storm ends. So it just gives you an additional perspective that allows you to not find answers to the big question of why, but the way I would like to put it is that the question is not why bad things happen to good people. The question is, what are you going to do about it? And that's the people of meaning ask that question. They don't focus on the why because they know they'll never find the full answer. But the question is, what am I going to do about it? I'm not going to allow myself to get paralyzed and allow a second death to happen. Not just the loss of my, whatever loss I have, but also losing myself. And they make sure to insist to continue to thrive. There's actually a powerful verse in the Bible, which is about the exodus from Egypt when the Jewish people suffered greatly in maybe the first documented institutionalized slavery and genocide. The story of Egypt. Egyptian slavery, talked about thousands of years ago. It's a great verse, a very powerful verse. As they were afflicted and they suffered, in direct proportion to that, they thrived and they flourished. So it was their affliction that actually brought out the best in them. Now again, we don't want affliction and we're not trying to justify it. As I said, there's no answer to the why, but there's an answer to what am I going to do about it. And Viktor Frankl, in his brilliant way, developed logotherapy, which is based in the book Man in Search of Meaning, which helped so many millions of people in discovering that deeper purpose. I don't think anyone who suffered a tragedy that has gotten through it in some way will tell you that I needed to find deeper meaning in my life. It's the only way I was able to manage. If not, the trauma, the tragedy is just too overwhelming. How do you manage? So there has to be some bigger picture that you so-called submit to, surrender to, and that allows you to carry on.